to move on to our next principle today with our intuitive eating series. And I'm also recording another one for next week just because of some scheduling conflicts. So this will be fun to do at one time, but I'll make them separate videos. So no worries there. So again, I am excited. I think I say this every time that I love this principle or the next principle, but for what it's worth, I love all of them because they really do build on each other, and they have been life-changing for me and for the clients that I work with. So today's principle is challenging the food police. And so I want to talk about what the food police are and why you need to challenge them as part of healing your relationship with food and your body. So the food police, they're basically, the voices in your head that are trying to make you feel guilty or make you question, are these unnecessary calories? Should I really be having dessert? Am I hungry really? Or why do I want this certain food? Just voices that tell you shouldn't feel like that. And they scrutinize every eating action to keep you and food and your body all just at war, just battling each other. So the food police wants you to follow the dieting rules. The way I talk about them almost sounds like they're real people, but they're not. It's just the voices in your head that have been cultivated from years of listening to diet culture or being on a diet. So you've been bombarded with these different voices for years. So as you look back at your own personal history, you're going to have to take into account how much time have you spent letting these food voices run and ruin your relationship with food. So if you have a rough idea of the amount of time, you can kind of add up, well, I was on this diet plan or I tracked for this amount of time. It gives you an idea of, wow, it was this chunk of amount of time, this many years, whatever it is. And hopefully it allows you to say, okay, I need to have some patience with myself as I try and uncouple these. Take these food voices out of my head, question them, be curious, and decide they don't serve me anymore. I want new voices in my head. So have patience with yourself. As we talked about with all of these principles, it takes time to really take these apart and then come back with what really makes sense for you. So a little bit of education. When the writers of Intuitive Eating, the book, talked about these food voices and challenging the food police, they actually broke them down into different voices. I think there's a lot of benefit to hearing what those are, and I'll go ahead and describe them because at times in your life, you might hear one voice, and other times you think you're doing something different and you're hearing a different voice. They're all different versions of a food police if they are, and this is kind of how you define whether or not it's like, what, where is it? What is it, a food police, or is it just me being curious? If they are telling you to look at external sources to decide what, when, and how much to eat, instead of what am I hungry for? What is my body telling me? So again, tracking a specific calorie count or a carb count or macro count. So those are just some of your ideas to know. Is this a voice, or is this a food police voice, or is this something that I'm actually just paying attention to in my body? So there are three main destructive dieting voices, we call them: food police, the diet rebel, and the nutrition informant. And then we'll talk about the helpful voices that you get to as you heal your relationship with food and your body and become an intuitive eater. Left in a specific category, or maybe I planned my meal yesterday and I know this is what I decided yesterday I was going to eat, rather than what's actually sounds good, how hungry am I, what's going on in my body at this moment. So the food police, I think, is one of the destructive dieting voices that I'm sure you will be familiar with, and probably all too familiar with. I know I was. And it's really a strong voice that's developed through dieting. It's your inner judge and jury, if you will. And they will tell you this is a good food and this is a bad food. The voice of the food police is not helpful at all. Now, as I talk through some of the other food voices, some of them have elements of being helpful as you transition to a more intuitive version of that food voice, but the food police does not. It's the one voice that there's nothing helpful about it. It just undermines your ability to listen to your own inner cues. So again, no value to this voice. It's one that you want to get rid of once you're able to recognize it. So the next voice is the nutrition informant. This is the voice that reminds you of helpful, I put that in air quotes, nutrition evidence that essentially keeps you dieting. Now, this voice might actually be a real voice. It could be someone who is telling you, oh, hey, I read this most recent article. I saw this program, this protocol. Maybe you should do it, or I'm going to do it. They might be just dispensing advice. Internally, this is the voice that like I've described, maybe you're counting carbs or checking nutrition facts or just deciding, I don't think I'm supposed to eat this much of whatever because it's not healthy from what I have read or something like that. I have to add that a lot of times health coaches are notoriously guilty of this. And as a health coach myself, I am very aware of this, this propensity to push on what we call like a wellness diet. I want to have my clients eat healthy. And it's done from a place of good. They are really trying to help their clients, what they think, eat healthier. But in reality, they're encouraging their clients to stay stuck in the middle of diet culture instead of listening to what their body's cues on and trying to teach them how to incorporate those too. So like I said, there are some helpful aspects to some of these voices. So the Nutrition Informant voice can be helpful as you transition from the destructive diet voice of Nutrition Informant. It transitions into a Nutrition Ally voice, which is interested in eating healthy with no hidden agenda of, well, I need to lose weight, or if I eat this way, it's going to make me look a different way or hit a certain carb count. So this voice allows you to rationally make choices based on health and satisfaction, not on deprivation or dieting. So what does that look like? So it's the idea of choosing between two meals at a restaurant that look both equally delicious to you, but maybe choosing one that has less cream in it because you know from experimenting that too much cream upsets your stomach. Maybe you have a sensitivity to too much dairy. So you're addressing and answering your need for satisfaction and nutrition, but honoring the cues that your body has given you and that you've experimented with. So it's taking, yes, there are different levels of nutrition or nutrient density in foods. I'm never going to say that a donut and an apple have the same nutrients. They don't, but it's choosing, I want to eat the apple because I know it feels good in my body at this moment. And sometimes the donut is what you need or that you decide to have. So it's kind of the balance of the two. And it's a great place to get to. One key for you in recognizing the difference between the two voices, the Nutrition Informant and the Nutrition Ally, and this is described by the authors of Intuitive Eating, is how you feel when you respond to the voice. So if you make or reject a food a food choice in the name of health, but feel guilty or unsatisfied when you know that the Nutrition Informant is still the dominant voice. It's policing your eating and there's guilt involved. But if you think, hey, I chose this and I feel good about it because, hey, my body responded the way I wanted it to, then that's the Nutrition Ally helping you make better choices and honor your body's cues. So that's the unhelpful food police. And like I said, we have the more helpful as you move into being an intuitive eater. I also want to introduce another unhelpful voice or destructive voice, which is the diet rebel. This is a voice that is often angry and determined in your head. And it might sound like I'm going to eat all of the things because I'm going to start my diet on Monday. So it could be Last Supper eating. That's very common when you're going to be ready to start something. But maybe it's the voice that is yelling in your head. It's angry that this food program, it's tasteless or it's boring or you're missing out. It's that feeling of restriction and craving. So you're going to show it and you're going to eat whatever the heck you want. This voice can also be pushed on us from like eating a certain way. So if you feel like there's someone in authority over you telling you to eat a certain way, a parent, a doctor, or a spouse, that's where it can also come up. And often when you respond with this voice, the diet rebel voice, it pushes you to eat past the point of comfortably full, even binging perhaps, if it's left unchecked. So definitely there's unhelpful aspects of the diet rebel. That's why it's considered a destructive voice. But there's the helpful aspect as you're able to move and transition into the rebel ally. So we're always adding ally into some of these voices. It's where you're able to create helpful boundaries with these, this idea of I'm in charge of my body. I'm in charge of what feels good in my body, and I don't have to listen to those voices of authority. It's that protection and, someone that you're able to say, no, you're not going to talk. I don't need you to talk to me about diets. Thank you, but no. Or I'm full. I don't need that second helping, or I am still hungry and I will get some more because I'm paying attention to my cues. So it's that voice that is protecting you as you emerge as an intuitive eater. So it's being confident that honoring your body's cues is right for you, and you don't need anybody else to tell you what you're doing or to tell you that you're doing it wrong or right. So it is a really powerful voice when you can transition to that rebel ally voice. So the last two voices are incredibly helpful, and they don't have any destructive voice that you transition from. They are just what they emerge when you are paying attention to your cues and becoming an intuitive eater. The first is the food anthropologist. This is a great voice and is one that I use a lot with my coaching clients because it's a neutral observer. I love when clients are first kind of trying to transition from a restrictive environment and they want to allow themselves to have unconditional permission to eat, being one of the earlier principles. It can feel very scary. And so there's the idea of having some kind of intuitive eating food journal where you pay attention to the food that you're eating, but you do it from a place of neutrality and curiosity. And you write down, maybe I ate, eggs for breakfast at 8 a.m. and I was hungry by 9:30. I probably needed more food or more fiber or whatever. So it's curiosity rather than judgment or shame. I ate a cookie, a food that you would normally have restricted, and I felt guilty. So there's also the anthropologist of, I wonder why that feeling came. It allows you to process your thoughts and move forward from them. It doesn't have to be done in a journaling form, but it can be very helpful to approach it from that perspective. So again, it's just being curious and taking notes, just like an anthropologist would at some kind of dig site. Like, what is this person doing? Why is this happening? And it just helps you move through and become more confident of an intuitive eater. So the last voice is the nurturer. This voice is whatever you think a nurturer would be: soothing, like a grandparent or something like that, or a good friend that really just lovingly speaks to you without any judgment at all. It's just full of positive self-talk and compassion. Everything you want in a person, just saying, hey, you had a cookie. That is totally normal and okay. You overate today at dinner. I'm curious as to why. And that's it. No judgment over what happened. So hopefully you can see how the food anthropologist and the nurturer, they work together to provide compassion and then allow you to explore like what's really going on. So as you recognize these voices, especially the unhelpful ones, the thought usually is, well, how can I move and transition to the helpful voices? Like I said, you probably noticed at different points in your life, maybe it was the food police, or maybe it was, I'm going to be healthy. And it was the nutrition informant constantly having you look at the calorie information or the nutrition information on the side of a box. So one of the first keys to recognizing these and challenging these is to challenge negative self-talk and change the way you think about yourself or talk to yourself. This can be, like anything, difficult, but it is very valuable. So you're going to pay attention to, when do I hear those absolute words, must, oughts, I shouldn't, or I should, I need to, I'm supposed to, I have to. These are words and thoughts that really create feelings of anxiety about not being able to carry out that command. I have to do this 100%. And thinking in this way does not guarantee that the behavior you desire, but they create a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors and really strong feelings of failure. So it's better to transition when you hear those words and say, no, I'm going to transition to more permissive words like can, it's okay, may. So the next time you think I have to go on a diet, or I must go on a diet, or I should go on a diet, or I need to lose weight, whatever, stop. That's all I can say is just stop. Replace the thought right then and there with some of those permissive, more nurturing words like the nurturing voice. It's okay if I don't lose weight before this event. I don't need to lose weight. It doesn't change my value. I can eat when I'm hungry. I'm going to be hungry later today, and that's okay. I may have foods that look or sound good to me. I may eat this food that I normally have restricted in the past, and that's okay. So just having a lot of compassion, that will help you feel more free to experiment with these things and just have curiosity with yourself. So just remember that rules and thoughts, they're a byproduct of our mind. And I challenge you to really get curious and explore, what are these food beliefs and rules? Are they helpful for me? Are they serving me? And where are they coming from? Are they coming from old diets that I've done or old beliefs that I had about food? And do I need to reinforce these rules? And if I break one of these rules, how do I feel? How does it affect my eating behavior? Am I starting to overeat, eat past the point of feeling full? Am I punishing myself? Look at the kind of the cause and effect, like what happens when I break these rules? And then you can say, yeah, you know what? Those rules don't serve me anymore. So hopefully it's an experiment that you can go through to kind of systematically challenge those rules or those voices that come from the different food police voices and say, you know, these aren't working for me anymore. So I also want to just reference why it's important to challenge the food police. Chasing away the food police is key to learning to eat intuitively again. It is impossible to view eating as a normal, pleasurable activity when the food police are governing each and every food decision and unreasonable rule that dieting has created in your life. You have to go through this process of questioning those rules, or you'll never be able to get to the point where you can eat and just recognize your own body's cues. So just a couple of last minute things, other ways to challenge that inner food voice that's coming up. I already talked about challenging self-talk and transitioning those. You want to examine your food beliefs, figure out where they've come from, and then, you know, nurture yourself. Think of different self-care things that you can do and engage in just really compassionate thoughts for yourself and speak kindly to yourself. Think about what you would say to a child or a friend, and make sure that those are the types of words that you're saying to yourself. And again, always observe your thoughts and behaviors, food behaviors, with non-judgment, neutral awareness, and just curiosity. That's going to be the key to really challenging those ideas that you have held for a long time. And I will just reiterate what I said at the beginning, that if you've been doing this for years or decades, have patience with yourself as you kind of systematically look at these rules, look at these voices, and choose whether or not they still hold value for you. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to DM me. As always, there is a lot of value in talking through this with someone. So there's links in my bio to set up a free mini coaching session if this is something you're interested in exploring. In 20 minutes, we're able to really just give you steps to move forward and decide, you know, what level of intuitive eater are you and kind of what's your next step to move forward. And thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next week.